Hello, folks. Omri here. I hope you're well. Companies die because their managers focus on the economic activity of producing goods and services, and they forget that their organization's true nature is that of a community of humans. That quote comes from the book The Living Company by Ari DeHose. DeHose was a pioneer in the notion of a learning organization, often attributed to Peter Senge. They developed it together. In fact, Peter Senge writes the foreword for the Living Company. A couple concepts really stood out. There's actually a concept and a story stood out from this book that I think makes it worthwhile for everybody in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space to read. The hose makes this distinction between what he calls a puddle company and a river company. I'm not going to go into details about it. I think it's worth you reading the book to do that. But if you think about the metaphor of a puddle and you think about the metaphor of a river, it will make sense. A puddle company is short term by the nature of what a puddle is. It's shallow. It has some rain that can fill it, but it slowly and sometimes quickly, depending on the heat, evaporates. A river, on the other hand, is always flowing. It's always changing. A puddle is stagnant. A river brings life all the way into the ocean. A puddle eventually, particularly when it faces heat, dries up and goes away. A puddle is short term. A river is about longevity. When we're practicing DEI, how do we help organizations become river companies, companies that last for a long time? They are out there, and we can create the conditions with people, those that we work with as an internal practitioner, as well as those we work with if we're consultants like myself. One story really stood out from the book that illustrates this, I think, brilliantly about managers. The hose was a relatively junior manager, and one of the more senior managers, one of the higher level people in the company, came to him and said, "We're going to start a new group and you're going to lead it. As you're leading it, you're going to have Mr. K. We'll call him Mr. K. He's going to report to you." The host said, "Wait a minute, Mr. K and I don't get along. You know, I worked for him a couple of years ago and it was really bad. We just couldn't make it work." That senior executive said to the host, wait. You're going to take this on. He's going to work for you and you're going to create the conditions for him to do a great job, for him to make his best contribution. And if you don't, the executive said to the host, it's your fault. How about that? How many managers would say your job, even with somebody you don't get on with their distinctions from you, even if somebody you have tension with, they're part of your group and you're their manager. Your job is to create the conditions for them to succeed, for them to thrive, for them to do their best work on behalf of the organization, because that's your common mission and purpose. So they started working together and they worked together for a while. And one day they had a breakdown. And DeHose had a breakdown himself. Mr. K, after that breakdown, immediately went to that senior executive, told him what happened. DeHose had to take the blame for that. In fact, it impacted his performance bonus. They didn't say it explicitly, but DeHose is pretty certain that that was the case. Create the conditions for your people to thrive across all of your differences and similarities. That's what the practice of inclusion looks like. What I got from that example is, I don't know what they're like now, but back then they were creating what I would call an inclusion system where inclusion is normative, where you have to create the conditions and it's your responsibility. And when you're a senior manager, you're focused on creating that community of humans to be able to do their best work each and every day. That's your purpose. He made that clear. The host got it. And I'm imagining the hose wasn't the only one in that across that ecosystem, across that human community, that was Shell that got it. So, river, not puddle. Longevity, not short term. Creating the conditions, not finding fault because of your differences and similarities. Connecting, even through tension, to do the best work on behalf of the purpose of the organization. That's what it means to create an inclusion system. I hope this was helpful. Make it a great day. Peace.